Sadly, I did not get any workout tips from Jason Momoa, but if he's out there, Big J, I'm here. I'm open to all your ideas and influences. Hi, I'm Staz Nair, somewhat out of shape Staz Nair. I am very much looking forward to taking you through the training regime that I was fortunate enough to do for Rebel Moon with Staz Nair, alongside his wonderful trainer, Alessandro Comodina, and who I have equal respect and fear for. If I'm training, it's informed by the character, by the epoch of the character, by the period you're playing within, whether it's fictitious and in space like Rebel Moon or fictitious and on Earth like Game of Thrones. And something like the Dothraki, they're inspired by the nomadic steppe people and by like Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan, and tried my best to think, okay, well, I ate high grain, high protein, and I trained very kind of like calisthenically. I wasn't necessarily lifting a lot of weights, I was just trying to be physically and practically active. Something like Rebel Moon, we're talking about a dystopian future where grain and water is the currency and people are really struggling for that. And that, you know, I thought it made a lot more sense to be more sinewy, more vascular, a lot more ripped. I got down to 5 to 6% body fat and stayed there for 6 to 7 months, which is pretty tough. For me, growing up as a kid, being active was very important. A, having ADHD, and B, just being a naturally outdoorsy person. It was just something that came to me very naturally, something I enjoyed a lot. As I got older, it became more practical, if I'm honest, than it did productive. You know, my wife thinks I'm more cuddly when I'm a bit huskier, as they say, a little bit, you know, a bit more big. I don't know what the word is for it. All jokes aside, my current training goal is just to be active. When I train very hard and very rigorously. I don't have a middle ground. I'm yet to find, even at the tender age of 32, a middle ground. So I think for me, it's when I'm training for a role, it's to train, you know, with a disciplined and consistent and kind of fervent attitude, but then also to make sure that when I'm not training, to stay active. So for me, that's doing martial arts, it's going out and hiking, it's keeping myself mobile and keeping myself active on the downtime that I have, where I don't want to be pumping and getting all swole. Start with a simple squat. A simple squat, starting with 45s on each side, start with 8 reps. And then we keep going less and less reps, more and more weight, with as little break as possible, but it's been a long time, so let's see how long the breaks are. Nice and deep, you happy with that? When I do it as hard as I can. When I don't do it at all. Horrible and horrible. It's been about a year since I trained, so a year since I've been put through this. Now what I enjoy the discipline necessary to achieve and pull off these kind of physical states when I'm training and when I'm training for work. When I'm off, I allow myself to enjoy that time off, but this specific journey was the hardest I've ever had. I feel a little triggered, feel a little like I'm in 2023. I'm back in it, but I'm also loving it. It's been a while. Next we go into our wonderful deadlifts. So we're gonna do again, 3-set, 8-6-6 rep for these deadlifts. Key is to keep the breaks in between as little as possible. And off we go. So we're gonna stick with compound lifting. The key is with this training regime is as little time, a little break in between. You're trying to keep it consistent. It's not about how heavy you lift it, it's about using the slow controlled movement, pushing your body and your muscle very hard for a short period of time. Do it for yourself. I think that's an important thing. I think, you know, we live in a generation society. We've become, you know, everything is so on show just because of social media and the way technology has progressed. We share so much of ourselves, and I think it's important to remind ourselves that if we are training, we train for ourselves. It's for our own, you know, our own security, our own self-wealth, our own self-health. You know, feeling good about ourselves. I think this should always be the main drive for getting into shape. I'm a big believer that a workout is meant to be enjoyable, it's meant to be useful, practical. I'd rather suffer for as little as possible and do it properly than go half measures. It's not fake out of breath. Yes, so next, little chest press, Then we move on and do whatever Big Boss says next. I think the distance is good. We have another 866 set of reps. So now we're up in the weight a little bit for our 2 sets of 6. Again, I think it's important to understand that for this kind of workout, you're not looking for a specific weight. You're looking for a weight that you can do these kind of reps, 10, 8, 6, with low break, comfortably without losing form. Whatever that is for you relatively is what you should be sticking at. When it gets too easy, you up the weights. Oi, Fogger. Come on. I'm about to do a set of 30, 40, 30, which my maths is terrible, is 110 reps. So when I was doing this all the time, 330, 340 reps without break. What we start with is what he calls 90s. You lift your back a little bit, support your bum, also raise the hips enough to change the axis, I think. Again, not smart enough to know. When you're doing these, you're keeping your feet at 90. Again, what you're also doing is you see my top is also quite lifted up. It's also forcing more pressure, I think, on the upper abs. You breathe out with every rep when you're doing the contraction. You breathe out. Well, back for a second, we have 40 for bicycles, but again, you're not cycling, but you're doing, keeping the legs always at 90. That's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 again, keeping the stomach up, keeping all this active. 1, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8. Finish off. Crunches. Feet are always up. If you can, keep them at a 90. You're trying to really, I can't even talk when I'm doing this one. So you're gonna have to wait, but in 20 reps time, I can maybe explain it a bit better. Oh, and that's how much that sucks. That wasn't even the full version. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm royally F-worded, but I had a great time. I'm Staz Nair. Thank you very much for staying with me and checking it out. That's my workout routine. Probably wasn't as good as it used to be, but part 3, I'm sure I'll get back to it. Hope you had a good time. Oh, yeah. Oh, start one way, and there we go. Please keep that in, that's amazing.